My name is Bissy, and it's always been me, my mother, and my older brother, Tunda. We lived in a small, worn house after our father passed away the day I was born. Life wasn't easy, but we had each other. Tunda, even at 17, became the father figure, always promising things would get better. Our meals were scarce, often just watery soup, but we made do, holding on to hope for a better future. Then Mama's health declined. What started as fatigue and headaches quickly worsened. She collapsed one day, and despite Tunda's efforts to find work and money for medicine, she never recovered. Watching her suffer was unbearable. We did everything we could, but it wasn't enough, and the weight of her decline seemed to drain our hope. When Mama passed, everything fell apart. Our uncles appeared, demanding we leave our home. Tunda refused, defending our right to stay, but their threats hung over us. I saw the strain on Tunda, as he tried to protect us and carry the weight of everything alone. His strength was fading, but he refused to give up. One night, Tunda didn't return home. I waited, growing anxious. As hours passed, fear set in. I called for him into the dark, but there was no answer. By morning, it was clear, Tunda was gone, and something terrible had happened. The next morning, as the sun rose, I heard the door creak open. I rushed to the entrance and found Tunda, exhausted but alive. I threw my arms around him, relieved. "Where have you been?" I asked, worried. He apologized, explaining he was working extra to make things easier for us. I begged him not to push himself, promising we'd manage together, but he insisted there was no choice. In the following days, Tunda grew more tired. He came home later, collapsing into bed each night. I noticed his dizziness worsening, but he kept refusing to rest, saying he had to keep working for us. I begged him to take care of himself, but he wouldn't listen, growing weaker by the day. One evening, Tunda wasn't home again. Panic set in as I waited hours for him to return. When I finally heard from him, his voice was weak, and he said he couldn't see straight. Just as I tried to help, there was a crash, and the line went dead. I screamed for him, but it was too late, something had happened. I rushed to the hospital after hearing about the accident. After a tense wait, a doctor told me Tunda was alive, but the relief quickly faded when he added, "However." My heart sank, knowing the worst was yet to come. The next morning, the doctor's serious expression made my heart race. "How is he?" I asked, trembling. He told me Tunda was stable but paralyzed from the accident. The only chance for recovery was an expensive surgery, costing 3 million naira, an amount we didn't have. My knees buckled. I whispered, "I don't have that kind of money," feeling overwhelmed by the news. 2 days later, I brought Tunda home. He was silent, distant, and barely responsive. Once in bed, I asked, "Do you need anything?" But he shook his head. The strong, protective brother I knew was now a shadow of himself, and I could only watch as he seemed to fade further into despair. Caring for Tunda became my sole focus. I worked long hours and took care of him when I returned home, but he refused to eat and spent his days in bitter silence. "What's the point?" he'd mutter. I kept trying to stay strong, but it was becoming too much. I could feel my strength fading with each day. Then, one evening, I arrived home to find our house burning. My heart stopped when I realized Tunda was still inside. I screamed his name, but the neighbors held me back. Helpless, I watched the fire consume everything. When the flames died down, I was left with nothing but the crushing loss of my brother. I couldn't bear the pain anymore as I used the last money I had to buy poison. I drank it and felt severe pain in MG stomach before everything went blank.
Thank you for watching. Please encourage us by subscribing and liking our video. Thank you and see you in the next video. Bye.